Welcome to the deep dive. There's just so much going on, so many headlines flying around. It can feel really hard to grasp what actually matters, right?
Absolutely. That's kind of why we're here.
Yeah, we take a closer look at the big stories, unpack the details, and really try to give you the insights you need.
And today, you've definitely tuned in at a pretty crucial time. We're diving into a major development in international trade. The U.S. has just rolled out a new set of tariffs. And the reactions from other big players, think Canada, the EU, they've been really swift and pretty significant.
Exactly. And for this, we've pulled together, a whole range of sources. Everything from breaking news reports, some in-depth analysis from economic, political commentators on YouTube, plus the latest financial news.
Yeah, a real mix.
Think of this as your cheat sheet to understanding what these tariffs actually mean and, why they're causing such a stir.
Because let's be honest, economic news, it can feel pretty overwhelming sometimes. So our goal here in this deep dive is to really distill it all down, pinpoint the key takeaways, and help you understand the potential impacts. On the global economy, yes, but maybe even on your own life. We want to bring some clarity, amidst all the complexity.
Absolutely. And speaking of gaining clarity and valuable perspectives.
Yeah.
If you're someone who's always looking to learn, to grow, maybe get a deeper understanding of the forces shaping our world and, your own potential, then you absolutely need to check out the YouTube channel Necessary Cookies. It's really more than just news updates. It's thoughtful content designed to give you valuable knowledge, spark motivation, offer fresh inspiration, new ideas, critical insights, really a different perspective on what drives success to help you become the best version of yourself. It's about igniting your wisdom.
Sounds interesting.
It really is. Now let's get into these tariffs.
Okay. So what's immediately striking, based on what our sources are showing, is just how broad these tariffs seem to be. It's not like a targeted action against just one industry or one country.
Yeah. Right. We're seeing reports referencing these Liberation Day tariffs. Now, the name itself might be a bit provocative, but the early info suggests a really broad stroke approach, like a potential tariff of at least 10% on a huge range of goods coming into the U.S.
Right, and that seems to be just the baseline. Digging into the details a bit, news outlets are reporting much higher specific rates depending on where the goods are coming from.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, we're seeing figures like 46% on goods from Vietnam, 32% on Indonesia, and 34% on products from China.
Wow. Those are significant jumps from 10%.
Huge jumps. And it's not just, general consumer stuff. We're hearing about key sectors like steel, aluminum, and now even the auto industry and apparel are facing these new levies. It looks like a really significant portion of imports will be hit.
And if we look at the immediate financial side, the market reaction, it's been quite sharp, according to the financial news articles we looked at.
Yeah, I saw that. Stock prices took a noticeable dive right after the announcements. Specifically, companies with big international supply chains, think Nike, Adidas, Puma, Foot Locker, Dick's Sporting Goods, they saw pretty substantial drops.
That Market Watch report you mentioned earlier, it highlighted Nike falling, 13%? That's a massive loss in market cap.
A huge loss.
Yeah, that's a huge hit for those companies. It really shows the immediate worry among investors, doesn't it, about how these increased costs for imported goods are going to squeeze their profits.
Definitely. Companies relying on that global supply chain are suddenly facing a very different economic picture.
And it wasn't just those specific stocks either. The broader market indices, the Dow, NASDAQ, S&P, they all reportedly took a hit too. So it signals a pretty widespread concern about the potential economic fallout.
Which immediately brings up these critical questions about the wider economic consequences, right? The analysts, the economists featured in our sources, they're voicing considerable worry about rising inflation. The basic idea here is that these tariffs, they essentially act like an added tax on imported goods.
Yeah, makes sense.
So businesses importing these goods, they're likely going to pass at least some of that increased cost onto American consumers. Higher prices for everyday stuff.
And that was a really common theme in the news coverage, this potential for already high inflation to get pushed even higher by these tariffs. People are already feeling the squeeze,
Absolutely.
And the thought of even higher prices on everything from groceries to clothes, it's definitely a concern. We also saw that commentary from Mark Zandi at Moody's Analytics.
Oh, yeah. What did he say?
He gave a pretty sobering assessment, suggesting that implementing these tariffs significantly increases the chance of a recession. It's a pretty serious warning about a potential major downturn.
It is indeed, and the worries, they go beyond just the U.S. economy, given how interconnected global trade is.
Right.
There's a real fear this could trigger a broader global economic slowdown. Actions this big, they don't happen in a vacuum. Other major economies are already reacting, and their responses could just add more ripple effects.
We're already seeing that, aren't we? Canada's reaction, for instance, was quite strong.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Prime Minister Carney, based on one of the YouTube transcripts, he didn't really mince words, called the U.S. tariffs unjustified and misguided.
Strong language.
Very. And they're not just talking, they're acting. Announcing retaliatory tariffs, 25% on all vehicles imported from the U.S. that don't meet their existing trade agreement rules.
Wow, 25% on vehicles. That's significant.
It is. We even heard about a specific example, a plant in Windsor reportedly facing a shutdown for at least 2 weeks just because of the uncertainty these tariffs created. That impacts thousands of auto workers.
That direct impact on Canadian workers, that really brings it home, doesn't it? It highlights the tangible human cost of these trade disputes. It's not just abstract economics. Real jobs, real livelihoods are at stake. And Canada's response, it really underscores the risk of this escalating into a bigger trade war. By putting on matching tariffs, they're signaling they mean business, even while trying, strategically it seems, to avoid totally disrupting that integrated auto parts supply chain with the U.S. and Mexico. It's a calculated retaliation.
And the European Union, also making its position very clear.
What are they saying?
The president of the European Commission put out a strong statement, emphasizing that, look, the EU didn't start this trade fight, and while they're still open to talking, they are fully prepared to take measures to protect their own economy and their citizens. The phrase, all instruments are on the table, certainly suggests they're considering a pretty wide range of potential countermeasures.
All instruments on the table.
Yeah, that's diplomatic code for we have options and we're not afraid to use them.
And what's particularly interesting there is that they're even hinting at potentially targeting major tech companies.
Oh, really? How so?
Companies that generate a big chunk of their revenue within the EU. This suggests the response could go beyond just traditional goods, like steel or cars, and move into the digital economy space. That adds a whole other layer of complexity.
So it feels like we have these two opposing forces, right? On one side, the U.S. administration arguing, look, these tariffs are necessary. We need to revive domestic manufacturing, bring back jobs, fix these unfair trade practices. That's their narrative.
Right, that's the stated goal.
But then on the other side, you have numerous economists raising serious red flags about inflation, maybe even a recession. Plus, you've got these strong retaliatory moves and firm opposition from key trading partners like Canada and the EU. It definitely feels like we're at a critical point in how global trade works.
That's a really key point to grasp. Our sources, they lay out these contrasting views quite clearly. The rationale from the U.S. side seems focused on this longer-term vision, strengthening the domestic economy, maybe even accepting some short-term pain. But the overwhelming feeling from the economic analysts and the international community, it's one of deep concern about the immediate and potentially severe negative economic consequences for everyone involved.
Okay, so to kind of wrap up the key points.
Yeah.
We've seen the announcement and rollout of these new U.S. tariffs.
Yep, the broad scope, the specific rates.
The immediate negative reaction in the stock market, especially for those global brands.
Nike, Adidas, big drops.
These growing worries about inflation getting worse, the risk of recession that Zandi mentions,
right, the
potential downturn, and then the very decisive retaliatory action and strong statements coming from Canada and the European Union. It really paints a picture of a global economy kind of bracing itself for some potentially significant disruption.
Precisely. And for you, the listener, it's really crucial to recognize just how interconnected the global economy is, which these events really highlight. Policy decisions made in, Washington, D.C. can have very tangible effects on businesses and consumers everywhere. These tariffs, they aren't just abstract economic ideas. They have the potential to directly influence the price you pay for a whole range of goods you use every single day.
Absolutely. It really hammers home how these seemingly distant policy choices can ripple through those international supply chains and ultimately hit our daily lives, our wallets. So as we bring this deep dive to a close, here's maybe a final thought for you to consider. Given the U.S. administration's stated goals, bolstering domestic manufacturing, and these immediate negative reactions we've seen from markets and partners, what might be the longer-term implications of this fundamental shift in global trade policy, not just for, the flow of goods, but maybe for the future of innovation and just the overall landscape of international economic relationships. It's definitely something worth mulling over.
That's a great question to leave people with. And, if you found this deep dive into a complex global issue valuable, and you're looking for more than just headlines, if you want to gain that valuable knowledge, motivation, inspiration, maybe some fresh ideas, insightful perspectives that can help you navigate the world and, well, become the best version of yourself, then we really encourage you to subscribe to the Necessary Cookies YouTube channel. It's a fantastic resource, thoughtful content designed to ignite your wisdom, foster your success in all aspects of life. It really goes beyond just the news, offering genuine guidance and insight.
Definitely. Head over to Necessary Cookies on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. You won't be disappointed if you're looking to deepen your understanding and get that fresh perspective on the world and, your own potential.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back soon with another look beneath the surface.